Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 331 of the MTGGoldfish podcast. I'm Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we have the full crew here this week, starting with the owner of MTGGoldfish from the wilderness. How's it going today, Richard?
Hey Seth, doing well. Apologies for jank audio. I'm literally in Gaia's cradle recording this. I'm at Sequoia National Park and ready to talk about Jund Horizons 2 today. It'll be good.
Do they have Wi-Fi there? Is there Wi-Fi in the woods?
There is Wi-Fi. I'm actually outside. I had to get outside of the woods to get the Wi-Fi, but it's a nice 106 degrees today where I'm at. Apparently, it's really hot in this section of California.
That's so miserable.
Well, you hear chiming in our other co-host, Grim. How are you today, Grim?
Morning, Seth. I'm not in the wilds, but I'm in my house. So, pretty good. Good morning to you and everyone.
Good morning. So, our topic today, of course, Modern Horizons 2. We're going to dedicate our entire podcast, minus maybe a bit of fish mailing at the end, to going over new Modern Horizons 2 cards. There are about an infinite number of really sweet cards in the set. We're going to try to talk about as many of our favorites and the most interesting as possible. So that's the plan for today. But before we get into that, a reminder that we have a sponsor today, and our sponsor is Card Conduit, and you may have heard about them before from us. They're a great way to sell your Magic collection, and they are offering a new service geared towards smaller batches of valuable cards with reduced service fees. With their curated shipment service, you can sell your cards for the best available buy list price with only a 5% service fee. And as with all of Card Conduit services, you don't need to sort your cards, you don't need to grade your cards, you can just safely pack them up and ship them out. And of course, you'll get a detailed report with the results, and you can check out Card Conduit's curated shipment option as a way to buy list up to 150 cards with fast processing, optimized prices, and a low service fee of just 5%. And you can even get a 10% discount by going to cardconduit.com/goldfish. Card Conduit, they are the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. So thank you to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And let's talk some Modern Horizons 2. So, Richard, why don't you guide us through some of these sweet new Magic cards?
All right, we have about 1 billion new cards that all look modern playable, and so you can check them out on MTGpreviews.com. And we're going to go and do our best to cover as many cards as possible today. So we're going to start off with the free spell Evoke cycle. So we've already had Grief, which is basically a discard spell. This week we have Solitude, Subtlety, and Endurance. Solitude is Swords to Plowshares for white. Subtlety is bounce to the top or bottom of library a creature or planeswalker spell. That's the blue one. And then the last one is Endurance. It's the green one. And that one is the Graveyard Hate one. This is when it enters the battlefield, one target player puts all cards from their graveyard on the bottom of the library in a random order. And Endurance is a 3... Oh, I forgot the creature part. Endurance is a 3-mana 3/4. Solitude is a 5-mana 3/2 flash lifelink. Subtlety is a 4-mana 3/3 flying flash.
Endurance also flash and reach on the green one. Yeah, this cycle is absolutely absurd. Like, all of these seem incredibly playable across formats. I think Modern, Legacy, they're just all really powerful cards. If there's one thing we know about Magic, it's free spells are good, and these are really powerful free spells.
They also get around Force of Negation and stuff like that. So this is pretty major.
I hate these cards. I hate like
really?
the lack of interaction, right? Let's say you're a graveyard deck. You can never go off now, right? Unless you have an explicit counter for Endurance. Like, you can't wait for your opponent to tap out. You can't do any of this, right? You just go for it, which I really hate. I really hate free swords. Free swords just lets you kill anything for free. Death Shadow is donezo, right? You swords a Death Shadow now. Good luck. So I think that deck is done. I don't know. I just don't like these free spells. Seth, Crib, help me. Convince me free spells are good for Modern.
Okay, maybe I don't know. Right now, they don't seem that bad for Modern because I feel like Modern and the cards that we've seen printed into this set feels we joked about it before, but like Legacy Light. And now I'm starting to really think that's true. And we're seeing that with cards like this. So free spells isn't that bad to me. And it actually really changes up the game, like you had mentioned. So now you're going to just like you can't do anything about an endurance, right? That's going to just happen whenever. And the best part is that you can target yourself too if you need to save your graveyard.
I feel like there's a much higher cost here than maybe we're considering. Like, the way I see these cards is I don't think you cast them as free spells unless you're pretty desperate, or maybe with Grief unless you have a combo with like Ephemerate or something. But in general, like, if there's one thing I've learned from playing Legacy, it's you really don't want to cast Force of Will unless you really have to. It's not something like, because you're going down a card and that's pretty painful. So I don't think Solitude, like, could you imagine your opponent going like turn 1 Goblin Guide and you're like, haha, Solitude, exile a card from my hand, I'm not taking that too. Like, I feel like they're a little safer than maybe they look, just because there is a real cost to them. And I like that in general, they seem targeted at unfair decks. Like, Endurance is hitting on, you know, like Dredge style decks or all the new reanimation stuff we're getting in the set. Solitude, when I will be happy to 2-for-1 myself, is when my opponent's about to like Heliad Walking Ballista combo me, or like Vizier Remedies Devoted Druid combo me. In those scenarios, sure, I'm down a card, but I'm not literally dead. So I feel like they're mostly safety valve style cards, if that makes sense. I don't see myself really playing them for value. I see them to like break up combos, break up degenerate graveyard stuff. So I think they're really powerful, but I don't know. Are they really going to like change Modern and invalidate a ton of decks? I don't think so. I'm not to that point yet, but I guess we'll see when we play them.
Have to hard disagree, Seth. It's like saying Phyrexian mana costs life. And like, yes, it costs life. In 2021, does anyone run out of gas? Like, we just play forever, right? And it's a game of tempo, which this is like an insane play. Can you imagine I play 3 Fairy with a Solitude up? Good luck, right? Then I just chain it into a Jace, into a Big Teferi. You don't run out of cards, right? So this lets you, this lets fair decks like just get to the late game. And then this stops combo decks, right? Like you said, if it's a combo deck, you're free to 2-for-1 yourself, because the combo deck probably fell apart afterwards. So I actually think these will be format defining, and I do think there are some dead strategies like Death Shadow. Like, I just can't imagine anyone playing Death Shadow with Solitude around, right? Like,
but I mean, isn't that like you're kind of helping them in a way too, though? I mean, not with the whole life gaining part and losing the creature, but
what? Destroying their entire deck with a single free spell? How are you helping them?
Well, because you're also like able to blow up their hand, right? And these cards get much worse when your hand's getting ripped apart, and heaven forbid you mulligan.
Yeah,
and
but
people
we got
mulligan a lot in the world
Planeswalkers.
of
Everything
mulligans.
has card advantage on it nowadays, though, right?
But what Planeswalkers does Death Shadow play? Like Liliana?
No. Wait. You say Liliana would play Solitude or against Solitude?
No, I mean, that's the Planeswalker that Death Shadow would play. So, like, I don't know. I feel like these cards are very good. I'm not saying they're bad, but like, I just don't think they're gonna break Modern.
I'll just leave it this. When I play Modern, I don't run out of cards. I run out of time and life, usually, right? Like, the opponent combos off first before I get to deploy any of the numerous cards in my hand, and all of these cards fix that in the sense that you play them for free, right? You're willing to go down cards to get some tempo or to get another spell off, to double spell, etc., etc. So I'm really scared of these cards.
What one do you think's best? We are still missing the red one we haven't seen yet, but out of the 4 that we've seen, which one do you think is the most powerful of the cycle?
Oh, I mean, I'm gonna go with. Okay, so if we're talking about like, I think I like Endurance just because of its cost. It's literally just a good enough creature for 3 mana, 3/4 flash reach. But obviously Grief is powerful. I think it's like that and Grief.
I think they're all good.
Yeah.
I think Grief has the potential to be really broken. Endurance can be cocoed in. It can just be played as a 3 mana 3/4 without the actual extra evoke text. I think Swords and the free Essence Scatter is really good. But those are known quantities. I feel Grief, you can like really get someone, right? And do really degenerate things with it if you want. So I feel that would be probably the strongest one.
And aren't you happy though, Richard? Because I mean, you said it yourself. Fair decks can actually get to the late game now. I mean, they've been able to, but now it's like you can actually play a fair deck and not feel absolutely terrible about some of the broken matchups.
But the only fair deck that exists is a Jace to Fairy deck. That's the problem, right? Like those decks can make it now, but there's only one fair deck, and that's that deck. I feel.
I mean, the Jund believers. The Junders.
Maybe, but we gotta need some spoilers to pop off here for Jund.
you think Jund doesn't play Grief?
Oh, we're gonna try.
Yeah.
This spoiler season actually made me feel really bad for Jund because there's a lot of cards that seem designed to power up Jund. And normally when a deck gets a bunch of cards from a Modern Horizons set, that's Wizard saying like, oh, this poor deck is so bad. Like, we need to power up Merfolk or Enchantress. Let's make Enchantress better. I think Jund is at that tier in Wizard's eyes now. They're like, we got to give Jund like 20 new cards and maybe this deck will actually be functional again. So yeah. I don't know. I feel like getting all those new cards is actually a bad sign for Jund because it means Wizards does not think very highly of it.
Have you not been listening to anything I've been saying for the last couple of years? Jund is a meme deck guy. I'd play Dousing Dagger in Modern if I could. Jund is a meme deck at this point, but maybe not after Modern Horizons 2 because Wizards did throw Jund a lot of bones, but
like chance encounter.
We're not here to only talk about Jund, okay? We have a Grixis Planeswalker.
Yes.
Gaedro Dihada. That's how I'm going to pronounce this. I have no idea if that's right. 1 blue, black, red, 4 starting loyalty, protection from permanents with corruption counters on them. +1, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Put a corruption counter on up to 1 other target creature or planeswalker. -3, gain control of target creature or planeswalker until end of turn. Untap it, put a corruption counter on it. It gains haste until end of turn. -7, gain control of each permanent with a corruption counter on it.
Oh, my Grixis Queen. This card is absolutely terrible in Modern, but I love it in Commander. So, okay, it's not like the worst thing I've ever seen played in Modern, but I am gonna say for 4 mana, I should just get to that. That -3 should just be give me that thing with a corruption counter permanently, because it is cool that I'm able to like steal a planeswalker. You can, if you somehow are able to get a Karn to stay around, you can steal it, exile itself if you need to. But yeah, like I think this card is a fun card but just completely terrible in Modern.
I would agree with that. I like the design of the card a lot. I think it's a cool, very Grixis-y steal your stuff. As soon as I saw it, it made me think of you, honestly, Krim. It's all the like steal your stuff and like just Grixis shenanigans. But I also agree that I just cannot see this card seeing play in Modern. It just doesn't do enough. And it's maybe if it was 2 mana, like Red and 6, like 2 Grixis hybrid mana. But at 4 mana, it just seems a little slow and lacking in impact. Like 4 mana is where you're playing like Jace the Mind Sculptor, cards like that. And this is not really on that level, I don't think.
If this were just literally Grixis, I would then think it's still not that great. Like just like blue, black, red, it would just be okay. Because, I mean, the problematic permanents that you want to steal, like I said earlier, is a card like maybe Karn, right? But that means they resolved a Karn, and you're probably not happy anyways. So, because like the thing that you want to steal, usually you can't let resolve. A Primeval Titan or something like that, you know what I mean? That's all bad.
I feel like the corruption counters should have more protection. Like maybe you and the Planeswalker have protection, or maybe like all your stuff has protection from them. But just protecting Gaedrone, like, isn't that exciting? Like, sure, you like protect your Planeswalker, but you're still getting beaten down by your opponent's whatever. So I feel like maybe that was a knob they could have twisted to make it a little bit more powerful. But it is a cool design though.
Yeah, like I'll be playing this in Commander for sure.
Is it really this bad? Like, it destroys creature decks, and that's it. And we're just saying creature decks are not a thing in Modern, unless they're combo creature decks, in which case this does nothing, or they're go wide.
How's it destroy a creature? How's it destroy a creature deck, though?
No, like, you go down, you plus it, right? So creatures can't kill your Gaia drone anymore, and then you just minus to take their creatures, and then like you have total control of the board if they're just playing creatures, right?
I mean, it's kind of just a threaten, though. Like, you're just gaining control of it until end of turn, unless you ultimate. Then you
I guess
can
that's
deal
true.
with
You need to
forever,
work your way up to ultimate.
Yeah,
But
and
it's
not
like a
ults
half
super
Gideon
fast.
protection that's permanent, right? It doesn't protect you, but it protects the Planeswalker forever.
I think it's too much
Yeah.
at 4
All right,
mana.
maybe this
That's
sucks.
the problem. It's at 4 mana. If this were 3 mana, then yeah, let's talk about it being like, I guess, somewhat better. But yeah, I don't know. This doesn't seem great.
It seems good if your opponent has exactly one thing. If they have exactly one thing, this is going to be the house. But if they have 2 things, then Gaia Drone gets a little weaker.
Do you think like maybe like if they increased the loyalty or something and it made it ult faster, so then you'd actually respect that ultimate? Then yeah, like maybe if it ulted at like how Nissa does in 1 turn at 5 or something.
And you
Wait,
just-
it wouldn't be that
even
good though,
that-
because you only get 1 creature because you only had time to put on 1
Sure.
corruption counter.
But also, and like on top of that, they should put the corruption counter on a permanent.
Ooh, so you can like corrupt lands.
Yeah. Or yeah, like and this should have been 3 mana. And then it would be like, I think actually like playable. But right
All right.
now it's just gonna be a pet card.
We have a 3 mana Planeswalker. Grist, the Hunger Tide. 1 black, green, 3 starting loyalty. As long as Grist isn't on the battlefield, it's a 1/1 insect creature in addition to its other types. +1, create a 1/1 black-green insect creature token, then mill a card. If an insect was milled this way, put a loyalty counter on Grist and repeat this process. -2, you may sack a creature. When you do, destroy target creature or planeswalker. -5, each opponent loses life equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard.
Oh, this card's so good. I absolutely. So Gris, okay. It's not that powerful of a planeswalker minus its static ability. Like +1 make an insect, that's fine. Sacking insect destroy something, that's fine. Ultimate, not really all that exciting. But the fact that you can Green Sun Zenith, Collected Company, Court of Calling, etc., unearth or reanimate, like all the shenanigans that you can do, because this is technically a creature, that's what makes me excited about this card. I think this is a card that'll show up as a one of tutor target in a lot of different decks that are playing those various creature tutors, not just in Modern, but also in Legacy. Like I love Nick Fit in Legacy. That's like one of my pet archetypes in Legacy. And this seems absolutely perfect as a repeatable sacrifice outlet that also kind of dirtles around and lets you sack your Veteran Explorer or your Academy Rector. I think it's perfect for Yawgmoth's Hospital in Modern, where you get another sack outlet and you get all the tutors. So that's what makes me excited about this card. If it didn't have the insect static ability, it would be a pretty mad planeswalker, but with all the shenanigans that enables, I actually think it's cool, and that also makes it legal as your commander, which is interesting.
Wait, so this is with that static, this is now legal as your commander?
Yes.
They actually confirmed that. Yeah, people were confused, and they asked, and there's an official ruling that yes, it is legal as your commander.
They should have just made planeswalkers be your commander. But okay. But yeah, like this, the -2 on this card is actually very respectable, right? On its own, like if I were to play this and it didn't have that static, being able to sack your own creature to destroy a target creature or planeswalker in Modern usually isn't as much of a downside as you think it is. So I think being able to blow up a planeswalker is big there. And this card, that +1, also pretty cool. So this is a pretty decent 3 mana planeswalker. Then you throw on the static ability and then it makes it better. Otherwise, this is just a 3 mana planeswalker to me. It's just okay.
Yeah, I think it's just average. Seth drinking the Kool-Aid. I mean, in decks where you need these effects, then yeah, right? It's a tutorable planeswalker. But the effects just aren't that good for you to just generically put in a deck. And even if you need a sack outlet, this is a lot, right? It's still a 4 mana Green Sun Zenith to get this thing out. So I don't know.
You can Coco into this, right?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
You can Coco into this, but then like you could Coco into your combo, or you can Coco into this. Like I don't know, right? Like is it worth it? Like that
Coco
-2
into your combo, whack. Check this
It's
out.
not
though.
exciting, right? So I don't know. Like maybe if you had a sacrifice deck and you were really lacking sacrifice outlets, you put this in. But okay. Next up. Oh, Seth, did you wanna defend Grist?
No, go. Go ahead.
You're
We're
gonna
good.
show me with results in the
I
modern
will prove
5
it to you
leagues.
once the set releases.
Douthie Voidwalker, black, 3/2, creature Douthie Rogue. It has shadow. So remember, shadow creatures can block and or they can only block and be blocked by creatures with shadow. If a card would be put in an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it with a void counter. Tap, sacrifice Voidwalker, choose an exiled card an opponent owns with a void counter on it. You may play it this turn without paying its mana cost.
This seems sweet, right? Like first off, it's cool to see Shadow return, but on top of that, it's a rogue. And then I do think that ability, if a card would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, instead exile it with a void counter on it, that's a card like of any type. So I really like that. And being able to sacrifice it to pick off a creature, I don't know, if I hit a Karn or something off that, that's going to be super cool. The only issue is
insane.
Isn't this insane? This is just straight up broken?
Yeah. I don't know if it's broken, because I also don't, like, what are you putting this in mill?
Let me understand here. So I play Douthie Voidwalker. I thought seize your Karn. I get a Karn for free? I just Troned myself,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I thought seize your Emrakul. It exiles due to this ability. I get a free Emrakul? Is that what we're saying?
Just play around the Thoughtseize.
Yeah.
Like, is this just not like Hogaak level stupidity? Like, I'm very confused here.
I mean, another card. I think this card's absolutely busted. Like, so it's 2 mana 3/2 that's unblockable essentially. So you already have a fast clock. It's a Leyline of the Void on a body. Leyline of the Void is already a card that you really want in Modern. Except this is on a body that you can actually put in your main deck. You're not embarrassed by a 3/2 unblockable, and then you get the upside of just randomly winning the game when you thought see something huge or you mill something huge. I think this card has all kinds of potential, from like black aggro decks to rogue style deck, like actually literally rogues, to collected company decks. This is a card that, why wouldn't you play this? Like, the graveyard hate's great, the body is fine, and then you have this I just accidentally win the game ability. Like, and you loop it with Lurrus. It's 2 mana, so it works in Lurrus decks, and you can keep recasting it. Like, even if you're getting a Tarmogoyf with this, sacrificing it, getting a free Tarmogoyf, replaying it with your Lurrus, and doing it again, like, that's insane. Like, I feel like this is one of the more broken cards we've seen from the set, honestly.
You had me till Tarmogoyf, Seth. I was all on board. I'm gonna cast
no one plays
Primeval
Tarmogoyf.
Titans off this thing, not Tarmogoyfs, okay?
I do, however, think that this card is very powerful, but I don't know if it's busted. I don't think it's breaking Modern.
Just imagine this, Krim. I play a dot. I turn 1 Thoughtseize you. Okay, make sure I get that Spell Snare or Mana Leak or Counterspell out of your hand. I turn 2 Douthie Voidwalker. I turn 3 Thoughtseize you again, taking your Jace. The game is over, right?
I mean, you're assuming that you're playing against a control deck that's just going to be like sitting there and smiling at you and like not doing anything.
But I got the
right?
turn 1 Thoughtseize. I got the turn 1 Grief, which I could pitch this to Grief if I wanted to. Like, I could get a 2-drop resolve. That's not terribly difficult.
I don't think it's the issue of getting it to resolve. It's just that there's a lot that goes on in Modern where you can interact with this card. It's a very powerful card. Once again, it's just, I don't think it's going to break Modern in half. I do think that it's absolutely wild that it has that like Leyline of the Void clause attached to it that you can main deck. That's the thing that I think is the most powerful, but the activation half of it is like, okay, not bad. I think that's pretty good. But broken? No.
I think it's a solid card with the ability to randomly win the game, which makes it broken. And that ability to randomly win the game is not that hard to trigger, I think. So I think this is actually, you got to kill this thing, right? Like, if you're playing a deck with good cards, you got to kill this, right? You can't afford losing your Karn or something, right? Like, you can't afford to give that over, right? If you're playing like Burn, then like, yeah, whatever, who cares about this, right? But if you have a Bomb or a Haymaker in your deck, this thing has to go immediately.
I mean, like, you don't have to kill it right away though, right? Because I can just sit and wait until you actually make me discard something. Like, obviously I would respond to what you're trying to make me discard with, but yeah, I think it's very good. It's just, once again, you still need to, there's an additional step. It's just not like, aha, play this and it's over. So there's a little bit more you have to do.
I kind of view that last ability like a Planeswalker ultimate or something. Like, if you delete that text from the card, a 3/2 that's unblockable and is a Leyline of the Void, like, that's already a powerful card. So I kind of view that win the game ability as upside for the most part. And I think like the floor is so high because of the Leyline of the Void on a body part of it that it's going to be really powerful. Even if you don't, or very infrequently get the Karn or the Emrakul to win the game, I think it's still going to be super, super powerful. But Richard, is it Jundable? Is this going to show up in Jund? And is it better than Bob?
I think this is better than Bob.
Okay, so I think we definitely throw it into Jund somewhere and try it. What do we cut for it? You could play it with Bob. You could cut Bob for it. I'm not sure yet, because there are other cards we're going to talk about which I think also deserve a slot in Jund. Basically, we're rebuilding Jund with Modern Horizons 2 limited deck. But yeah, I think it's strong. I think the ability to just take you're playing a 2-drop and you can upgrade it into a 3, a 4, a 5, or 6, or 7-drop. I think that's extremely strong. So I think we're going to try it somewhere, and I think it'll be good. The shadow is really relevant. Like, your Sacker Tribe Elder can't block my creatures, right? I can just get through. So I actually think it's really strong, and we will definitely try it in Jund.
You're forgetting Mill, which is actually a deck I think that gets a decent amount of play in Modern, right?
Yep. So next up, we have a Ragavan Nimble Pilferer. A single red mana, so it's a 1-drop. It's a 2/1 legendary creature monkey pirate. When it deals combat damage to a player, create a treasure token, exile the top card of that player's library. Until end of turn, you may cast that card. It has a dash ability, 1 in a red. That means you can just play it. It has haste, and at the end of turn, it returns. Or the end of turn, it ends. It goes back to your hand. So, and then you also have to use the right colored mana, but you have a treasure token to help you with that for casting that spell.
I think this is just an amazing red 1-drop, right? Like this is so much more than any red 1-drop before it, except for that I guess it doesn't have haste. But dash gives it that, so yeah, this is an absolutely wild card. I think this is much more on the what is going on here. Like I have to kill that probably faster than the Voidwalker.
I think Ragavan's good, although I think that it is not necessarily better than the 3 big red 1-drops we have. I think it really depends on the deck. Like right now, kind of the trinity of 1-drops. You got Goblin Guide, you got Monastery Swiftspear, you got Soulscar Mage, probably the newest member of the trinity. And I feel like if you're playing Burn or Prowess, I think those cards are just better. I don't think you replace a Swiftspear or a Soulscar Mage. On the other hand, if you're playing something that's more zoo style, a aggro-y, mid-rangey creature style deck like Jund maybe, that's where I think Ragavan's really going to shine. So I think it's good, but do you think this actually shows up in like Prowess or Burn or some of the traditional 1-drop red aggro decks? I'm not actually sure that it does.
I could see this going over maybe like a Goblin Guide, but I don't see it replacing Swiftspear or Soulscar.
Yeah, Goblin Guide gives haste. Goblin Guide gives haste. This gives you a treasure if you hit. It costs more. It's legendary. That's a big downside if you draw multiple of them. So I think
that's true.
I think Seth is right. Like I don't know that like say red burn decks would play this, but I do think this is the savior of Jund. Like this is the card that will put Jund back on the map if that concept even exists in 2021. Like a 1-mana 2/1 dies to run in 6, unfortunately, but it creates a treasure, so it ramps you. It enables turn 2 lilies. If you bounce it with Teferi, I dash it in, right? It's basically Strangleroot Geist with like real abilities. So you know how I feel about Strangleroot Geist, right? But this is actually castable, right? It's red and a 1. It can draw you a card. It ramps you. This is just Strangleroot Geist way better. So I think this is the savior of Jund. I think, when I brew Jund, this is starting in the list with Modern Horizons 2. So I believe this monkey pirate has what it takes to save Tarmogoyf.
To bail Tarmogoyf out.
I also really like it in like Domain Zoo. That's another archetype that's gotten a lot of support with like the new Draco, the 2-drop Kavu. That's a 5/5 if you have all the basic land types. So I could imagine it showing up there too. Like the treasure is very explosive. Like if you play this and get in the hit with it and ramp into a 3-drop, that is a really scary start, especially if you're playing an aggro deck. Can you imagine like play this on turn 1, hit on turn 2, and follow up with like Wild Nikado plus Draco or whatever? Like how do you beat that? That is a ridiculous aggro start.
I mean, yeah, like that is if all like I am very curious how that Domain Zoo deck is gonna like play, right? And you have whatever the 2-mana burn spell too.
Yes, Tribal Flames.
Yes, Tribal Flames, right? So like I mean, if there's a payoff where you can combine all of that, like in like this Domain Zoo deck, then I think that's pretty cool.
Domain
Best
Zoo
monkey
sounds
ever.
way too slow in 2021. You're gonna have to show me. So you're just like playing like Tarmogoyf creatures. This is not good enough. we need to end the game even faster.
Yeah, that's, I mean, I
alright.
can also see that.
Next up, Esper Sentinel. A single white mana. So 1-drop, it's a 1/1 artifact creature human soldier. Whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, draw a card unless that player pays X, where X is Esper Sentinel's power.
I mean, this seems amazing across like all the like so many formats here that you can play it in. Modern, you know, this is a real card for humans, right? Like I know that every set there's like this, you know, like there are good humans, but this one gives the deck card draw, which it definitely could have used, right? And when you get Lord effects and stuff like that, the tax is going to start being overbearing and like overwhelming, and it already will be at 1 mana. So I think this is powerful there. This gets this is amazing in Commander. This card is awesome.
Yeah, best white commander card ever, maybe? Like, I think this is like Smothering Tithe level auto include in white decks and Commander. It's like the white Mystic Remora, essentially. Like, yes, it's a creature. Yes, that means it's going to die sometimes. But white is just so hard up to draw cards that this card is going to be insane there. And I do think it has some modern potential as well. Humans, also, we've seen a lot of support for maybe an artifact deck, some sort of modular deck, Arcbound Ravager deck making a comeback. So it could show up there as well, where it seems like a reasonable 1-drop in a deck like that. So I think this card's super strong in multiple formats.
Did it need to be a human, is my question. It seems like Wizards has decided humans needs a big power boost this set, and they just made Esper Sentinel an artifact creature human soldier. But this card is like insane. You can't give humans card like that deck was so good without card advantage. Now imagine if you just pile on the card advantage, which Esper Sentinel gives you. It's insane. And then especially with like the like Thalia taxing effects, like you won't be able to pay for these things, right? So
Yeah.
This makes humans like really scary in my eyes, and we'll see where that takes the human archetype.
I think the human question is like, what are you cutting for it? I guess Militia Bugler probably would be my first cut if you're a build that's playing that, which some builds play a copy or two, some builds don't. But other than that, that's where it gets a little bit complicated. Is like, what am I taking out? There's just not a ton of flex slots, and I don't know if you're not going to take out like Champion of the Parish, Noble Hierarch, Meddling Mage, like those are, and then the payoffs like Thalia's Lieutenant Thalia. So that's my question, is like, where do you find room for this? But yeah, I mean, it is certainly very strong.
I don't know if it's like going to replace like, but it's going to be like a full play set in the main deck. I see this as a split between the main deck and the sideboard, like maybe like 2 in the main and then like 1 or 2 more out of the sideboard for the control matchup.
Yeah,
Yari on humans.
That's you joke, but I actually
my room
thought
somehow.
about Yarion when I saw half of these cards where like they look similar to existing modern cards, but how would you slot them into your deck? And you're like, well, Yarion, this is how you do it.
That's a lot of humans. That's a lot of humans.
All right, next up we have a new sword, Sword of Hearth and Home. 3 mana. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from green and white. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, exile up to 1 target creature you own. Then search your library for a basic land card. Put both cards onto the battlefield under your control, then shuffle. Equip 2.
They actually printed a good sword finally. After Modern Horizons 1, I thought they were just never going to print a good sword again. this is an actually legitimately good sword. I think in Modern and Fringe, maybe. If there's some sort of like Soul Herder Stoneforge hybrid, I think it's kind of cute. I think it's cute that you can Stoneforge it and then blink the Stoneforge and tutor up a better equipment, which probably isn't a legitimate plan. But where I think this shines is in Commander. I would not be the least bit surprised if this ends up the most played sword in Commander. I think this is going to be one of the 5 most played equipment in the entire.
What? I am on the other side.
It's sort of the Animus
so
plus.
I actually think this card is trash. You think it's a top 5 equipment?
I mean, sort of the Animus is a top 5 equipment, and this is sort of the Animus with double protection. It pumps your creature, and it has blink synergies. And the only cost is you pay 1 extra mana up front.
I think, so I would rather play this in Modern than I would in Commander. And
is Animus top 5? It is top 5 equipment.
I don't like this. I don't know. I don't like the color protections that it offers. I mean, I guess it's planning ahead for when green eventually just has hard removal. But the thing here is, like right now, this ability to just blink it seems okay. Like I don't hate it, but it's just, is this sword just not like, it doesn't untap my mana. It doesn't seem great in a multiplayer game. Obviously, like if I'm able to like blink my Avenger of Zendikar, all right, like that's the situation where I'm very happy about it in Commander. Otherwise, I don't know. This doesn't seem that good to me.
Yeah,
I'm
kind of colorless Prim here. Like, so Seth's point about everyone playing Sword of the Animus kind of changes my opinion slightly, because it is just 1 more mana for Sword of the Animus. But I don't think Sword of the Animus is that good, and I don't think people should be playing it as like a top 5 equipment. I wonder if price has to do with this, because the old swords are just crazy expensive. Like, I'd rather play a Feast and Famine and Fire and Ice all the time above an Animist. And like, Animus is not, it's too slow. It doesn't really ramp you. It's like a ramp for 7 mana or 8 mana, right? When you want to get the 7th or 8th mana. So it's really slow. I don't like it. I feel this is like exceptionally good in blink decks or decks that are super desperate for ramp. But as a general sword, like Fire and Ice and Feast and Famine go in before this thing goes in.
Right. I would even play the protection from red and black one, because I feel like when I'm playing a sword in Commander, I'm playing it for the color protection.
The protection from red and black one's so bad. I think both Modern Horizons, the original Modern Horizon swords are like, maybe what we got to do for a Commander Clash podcast is tier ranking the swords. That would be interesting, because I think those are like low tier. I don't know. Maybe Sword of the Animist is overrated. The price argument is a good one. It is like a $10, $15 card rather than a $50 card or whatever it is to get the swords. And it was cheaper in the not super distant past. It's one of those cards that just keeps going up and up in price. So maybe prices by Sword of the Animist is up there, but I don't know. I feel like if you're playing Sword of the Animist and you're not playing it because of price, why wouldn't you play this instead?
Oh, I
like 1 extra mana.
I agree with that. Like,
1 extra mana means your ramp is like 1 turn late, right? Like, why play Farseek when you can play Cultivate? Why play Cultivate when you can play Explosive Vegetation? Like, 1 turn means a lot when you're trying to ramp, right?
I do think this would be I'm with Seth in that I would choose this over Sword of the Animus. Sure. Also, that's a May blink, right? I don't have to blink because that feels like it'd be miserable if I have to do that.
The funny thing is, like, if you had to blink, you would blink your sword off your creature and have to
yeah, exactly.
That equipping.
Yeah, that would
optional.
feel real
It's
bad.
optional. You don't have to do it. Okay, next up, we have another human. We have General Ferris Rockerick. 1 red and a white. It's a legendary creature, human soldier at 3/1, hexproof from monocolored. Whenever you cast a multicolored spell, create a 4/4 red and white golem artifact creature token.
This card seems very good because of the protection from monocolor. Doesn't die to bolt, path, push, whatever, the new free spell swords. Like there's a lot that this gets around because it's protection from monocolor. And I think that's pretty major. Now, like, if we'll see how much like a super like young pyromancer does, or whatever hero precinct 1. I'm excited to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I don't know why people aren't talking about this card more. This is a card that reads really powerfully to me. Like, sure, you do have to build around it. You need a bunch of multicolor effects, but we have tons of good multicolor cards. Like, there's plenty of multicolor cards to make a deck around it and be playing all really powerful cards. And as Grim mentioned, this thing's really miserable to kill. Like, it's got 1 toughness, but it dodges almost all the playable removal in the format outside of, I guess, Renin 6 is what really punishes this. But
Sure.
But yeah, it seems like it sticks out, and you cast a couple spells and you're getting 4/4s. Hero Precinct 1 makes a 1/1. You cast a couple of spells with this and you're going to have 8 power worth of golems or something. It's a really fast clock. So I actually think this card has a lot of potential. This is one also that maybe could just go into humans in some number. If you look at humans, a big chunk of their stuff is multicolored, and you probably could skew even more that direction if you wanted to. So that could be a possibility there as well. Or you just build like multicolor, whatever, aggro and have this be the centerpiece.
I was saying, like, because I don't know about humans only because you do play the monocolor ones. And on top of that, you are also relying on like vials and stuff like that, which isn't casting it. So, but I would play this like in a multicolor aggro or tempo deck. I was thinking about like Jeskai, where you have spell quellers, you have all this other stuff to go with it. So I think this card is very good in that style of deck. But is it possible that this might still just be a little bit too fair?
How can this be too fair? It does so much. Like when I saw this card, I thought humans, even though it has downsides, like Krim said, you can't use it with Vial, but just like General Ferris into a Mantis Rider is like incredible amount of pressure, and this thing is really hard to remove. It needs planeswalkers basically, right?
I mean, yeah, this could go into like a Niv to Light deck or something like that, but like otherwise, this seems like if you're adding another 3-drop into humans, that's a lot.
Yeah. But you only need the ability to go off once, right? Like you're playing like fair creature deck. Like you don't need to make like 4 tokens, right? Like 1 token is enough to like push it over the edge. So I think it's actually a really interesting card. And then you can also just build like Esper hero type decks. So I actually think this card is actually really strong. And it makes me really sad that we're still saying it's too fair. Like you're just getting free 4/4s out of nowhere, and we're saying that's not good enough. Like what if I spent 2 mana for my 4/4? Right? Like this is
if this were 2 mana, I think this would be very good.
It would be broken. It would be too good, I think, at 2 mana. I would lean towards. But the thing is, like, I feel like Modern's getting fairer. Like, looking at Modern Horizons 2 and the free spells and all the cards in the set, there's not much that jumps out as like, okay, this is going to be a broken combo piece. Maybe like some of the tutors, but otherwise, it seems like the set mostly is going to power up fairer style decks. So maybe, I don't know, maybe we're focusing too much on the unfair aspects when those decks are theoretically going to get punished the most by some of the free evoke spells and whatnot.
Maybe, yeah.
All right, next up, we talk about fair cards. We have Chartless Agent. Being put into Modern. 1 blue and a green, 2/2, human rogue, Cascade. The dream. Is Chartless Agent too fair for Modern now?
Is this not just now actually Legacy Light though? Like it is. It seems that Magic has just decided that Modern is going to be Legacy, right? Except without the duels. I mean, because I think Legacy when I think Chartless Agent, because Chartless Bug and stuff like that. So
I think Legacy too, although without Brainstorm, it does lose a bit of its Legacy appeal, because that was like the trick, like Brainstorm back your Ancestral Visions and get them or whatever. But so without Brainstorm, it's a little bit just fairer, I guess. Although I still think it's the best 3-mana Cascade spell. So it's an immediate upgrade for anyone who is playing 3-mana like Living End or whatever. Like it seems like an immediate upgrade there. And I don't know, I think you can play this fairly. Like turn 1 ignoble Hierarch or whatever into this and hit your Goyf or whatever. That's some pressure. You might get there. There's a shot.
Well, you're calling that the fairway? I'm like, the fairway is use Solitude and whatever, like 2-for-1 yourself into Oblivion, control your opponent, Chartless Agent, Cascade, Ancestral Vision, lock up the game. Right? That's the fairway.
I think this card is pretty good. So maybe now you teamer so you can Cascade from Bloodbraid. And this doesn't actually do.
I mean, we want to be Legacy, and here we are. All the good fair cards are blue, so
here's the question though. Like, what about Uro? Like, they got the same mana cost. Can it compete? Or are you just gonna play Uro over Chartless Agent?
I'm playing Uro, 100%.
Uro's way better.
Yeah.
But you can play both, right? This is the key here. You can play both if you wanted.
Yeah, that is true.
Being able to Chartless Agent and like cascade into something like Hymn to Turok probably is a lot more powerful than like what Modern can do.
I still think it's probably going to be played though. I don't think it's broken or anything, but it seems like it does enough. And it is a card I really like. So this is a card I'm actually kind of excited about having in Modern, but I don't know. I'm not really super scared of this card. To me, it seems like a pretty fun, fair value card that maybe can work with free spells or make Living End a little better or something.
Yeah.
With free spells? What? I mean, I don't think we have any
like the no mana. Well, like Restore Balance or no mana cost free spells. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this card is cute. Like, maybe it gets played in Modern, but I think it's not good enough in like
bug.
A generic shell. You have to build around it and do something. You can't just jam it in and say, yes, I'm playing with legacy cards.
You could poop out some rhinos or even AV.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then die to
the downside is you want mana dorks.
But that
you can
value,
do anything you want,
though.
Modern Crib, but it just subsequently die. All right, next up we have Ignoble Hierarch. A single green. It's a 1-drop. It's a Goblin Shaman. It's a 0/1. Exalted. Tap to add black, red, or green. So a Jund Noble Hierarch.
I think this is a cool card.
We know what it does. Noble Hierarch, it sees play. It does the same thing. My big question is this really the Jund Noble Hierarch, Richard, in the sense that it's going to show up in Jund decks? Or is this just another Noble Hierarch for random whatever decks?
Nah, this is a great card if you're not playing Jund, right? Like maybe you're playing like green, black, Infect. You're playing Collected Company or something. This is an awesome card. But Jund has had Birds of Paradise since forever, right? No one plays Birds of Paradise. Like, turn 2 Liliana is not worth the Birds of Paradise. So people see this, they see Deathrite Shaman. It is not Deathrite Shaman. It is a Birds of Paradise. No one plays Birds of Paradise. I don't know that you care to give Goyf one more power. Yes, it works in Jund Mirrors, but then this gets picked off by Red and 6 in Jund Mirrors, so net neutral. So I don't know. I think this card is actually a trap. I think we've seen much better Jund cards in Modern Horizons too, and I think this will power up random green decks, but not Jund. Okay, next up we have a sweet, very efficient removal spells. We have Suspend. It's an instant at a single blue, exile target creature and put 2 time counters on it. If it doesn't have Suspend, it gains Suspend. Single blue removal.
You know I love this card here. This card is sick. And on top of that, you are suspending the card. You know, one of my favorite planeswalkers. It's 3 mana. It's pretty good in Magic the Gathering. It's called Teferi Time Raveler. And I'm really excited to suspend people with a Teferi out. like this is a very cool removal spell. Is it a 4 of though? I don't know if I would play 4 of these. I would play 2 of these. Tops.
I feel like this card's powerful, but I also feel like it is somewhat narrow. Like,
yeah,
I feel like you got to be a Teferi deck, or you got to be like maybe some sort of tempo deck where you're using this like an unsummon, like I'm gonna stop you for a couple turns and kill you. But I don't know, would you just play this as in a random deck as a removal spell? Because it does only get rid of the thing for 2 turns, so it's not like it's hard removal.
Two turns is the entire game in Modern, Seth. What are you talking about?
For 1 mana? For 1 mana, I think that's a deal. That's quite the deal. In a mono bluish deck or anything like that, this is perfect, right? I mean, like mono blue didn't even have that much to go with before, anyways, like Reality Shift or something like that. But yeah, like I think this card is sweet. And then of course there's Commander, where I think the delaying for 2 turns is also big.
I think this card is insane. Yeah. I think fair decks.
Yeah.
Like this makes me not want to play any fair deck, because this means blue is the strongest fair deck, right? Like you suspend, something for 2 turns. And then by that time, you have a Teferi down to stop this altogether, or you're in Jace territory, so it doesn't matter that the creature comes back. Like, you can deal with it at this point. Unfair decks have 1 mana removal, right? Nice hate bear you got there. Suspend it away, combo off, I win the game. Like, two turns is an eternity in Modern. So I feel like this has actually no downside, and I feel a lot of decks will play this, and I feel unfair decks will happily play this. They will happily remove whatever hate piece you have in place and then go off with it.
I agree with that. I think like Infect is a good example. That's the kind of deck that I think can really take advantage of a card like this. And I guess if you got Teferi out, it's really good too. Although I do wonder with control decks, like, you got a lot of removal options. Do you need a combo removal piece where you need a Planeswalker on the battlefield to have it be removal, or do you just have enough other removal that you can get by with your paths and whatnot? But it is a sweet
So
card.
blue-white control, do you play Suspend or do you play Path to Exile?
You play Path 100%. That's
the giving them the land is not worth the giving them a creature in 2 turns.
Yeah, like, I mean, this is just more of it, right? This is like my attempt at a path, like, I don't know, 5 and 6 maybe.
What is the current path 5 to 6 in a blue-white deck?
Like, actually
Condemn,
not great.
like something like that.
Oust.
Well,
Oust, I think, sees a bit of play. Winds of Abandon sometimes sees a bit of play.
That's why they went Esper, right? Because now you get to play Fatal Push on top of that. Or you now have Fatal Push and Path.
I feel like the closer you are to mono blue, the better this gets.
Yeah.
I mean,
this
once you're
allows you to
Esper
not
and
get
you have
wrecked by
Fatal
Blood Moon,
Push
right?
and you have Path,
Yeah.
and then you're like, whatever.
All right, next up we have Vindicate coming to Modern. That's a single generic white-black 3 CMC. Destroy anything. Destroy target permanent at sorcery speed.
Is Orzhov Pox not just absolutely wild? Right? Like it just seems like such a fun deck to play. Being able to blow up a land, or anything that you want. Is Vindicate, I don't know. I don't think Vindicate's too strong, but I mean, does it help push an archetype like that to like a little bit of a higher tier than it was before?
It'll be really interesting to see how good it is. I mean, blowing up a land is the big deal. That's the big upside. I don't know where it actually lands as far as that's concerned. I could see a Pox style deck being a good one option for it. I could just see like Mardu Pyromancer style decks.
Yeah.
It is just a solid removal spell. The only drawback is it is sorcery speed, but the upside of like getting rid of a Tron land, or if you're playing other land destruction, just straight up playing the Ponza plan and like mana screwing your opponent out of the game, that is really huge compared to other removal spells. What do you think about like Esper Control Crim? I guess also if you got Teferi out, you can instant beat it. That's pretty absurd.
Teferi allows you to do whatever you want, and it's a cool card. But yeah, like I think this card is pretty sweet also in Esper Control. The big issue is the whole 3 mana tap out, but with more free spells hitting the format, maybe that slightly changes the cost of things. And maybe I can afford to play 1 or 2 copies of this. But what is this replacing, right? Because the versatility of something like Gaia's Guile, I think, is still higher than this. Being able to gain the life, remove the graveyard, I think that's just the better spell, and it's also instant. But I see this a lot more in something like Mardu, as you had mentioned. Maybe now that Mardu has General Ferris Rokaric or whatever, this kind of plays with that too.
Yeah. So WotC was been powering up Jund, but they forgot about Abzan. Would Abzan play this card? We could already...
I forgot Abzan.
You could theoretically Noble Hierarch into Vindicate on turn 2.
Into Siege Rhino. Yes, it's back.
You cast Lingering Souls to chump block while you set up your Vindicate plan.
If weren't you just saying Jund is too fair and kind of like bad? Like, I mean, you can't tell me that that's honestly better than Jund.
I'm just saying there is another black-green deck, Abzan, that's been forgotten. Jund is the more aggressive version, which can't get anything done. So the grindier version probably can't get anything done either. But it kills Tron lands.
Yeah,
that's the upside.
There's a lot of things in this set though that blow up Tron lands though.
I feel this is not playable though. No, I feel this is a good throwback, but we have Assassin's Trophy. I mean, does the same thing. Does the land
but
matter?
But you give them a land.
Yeah.
You give them a land, though. It does. I think it does matter to actually put them down to land. Although,
Are we
sorcery
really stone
speed
raining
and
people?
1 more mana isn't.
Aren't we just killing Valakites in fields and stuff like that? Are we really hitting their basic land and hoping that's enough?
Yes.
Oh yeah. I think you're playing like Mardu land. There's already Boros land destruction.
You just
like
add
you
black.
go into go into black. You have this, and it can get rid of your opponent's other stuff too. Like. I mean, I don't think you just jam this in every deck, but I think there is an upside to hitting lands because you have those games sometimes where your opponent like misses their 3rd land drop and you've got Vindicate in hand. You're like, oh, I just win this game. Like, blow up your 2nd land. Like, sorry, buddy, you should have mulliganed more, and I got you.
But I feel like you will lose more games because you have 3 mana sorcery speed removal that you needed to kill like that blighted agent on turn 1 or turn 2.
We don't talk about. We don't talk about
screwed
those
you out of the
games.
games.
Yeah, we
don't talk
we
about
omit those.
those.
Those games
we
from
cut those
mine.
out of the YouTube videos. We don't see them.
Yes.
All right. Last card. Damn. Black. Sorcery. Destroy target creature. A creature destroyed this way cannot be regenerated. Overload 2 white.
This
Split
has to
card
be-
Wrath here.
Yeah, like this has to be one of the coolest and like most well-designed board wipes. Right? I mean, it gets around the issue of it doesn't exile and it doesn't get around indestructible, but it does like sometimes you're like, "Hey, I wish this 4 mana board wipe was cheaper." And because I only really need to deal with one problematic creature. And it doesn't look like much, but the flexibility of this card is what makes this card amazing to me. It can be spot removal. It can be a board wipe. It doesn't hit planeswalkers, but that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of my favorite designs from the set. Like, it's a cool reference to Damnation of Wrath of God. It's a powerful card. I heard someone compare it to Cyclonic Rift, not in power level, but with what you were saying, Krim, how sometimes you want to wrath the board, but other times you need to kill one thing and you're not up to 4 mana. This is offering the flexibility to do both of them. I think if you're in the colors, I would play this over Wrath of God like 100% of the time. Like, why would you not? If you're playing Wrath of God or Day of Judgment and you have black mana in your deck too, this is just strictly better, right?
Yeah.
I don't understand why Wizards keeps powering up removal. Like, nobody plays creatures in Modern. Like, this, like, why? This ensures you can never play, like, a legitimate creature, right? Like, every creature has to be hyper efficient and, like, kill you in one shot because you can't just put, like, 3 Dirtles on the board and hope it's good enough because you're going to get swept away. And now the downside of Wraths was like, oh, you drew too many Wraths and I have, like, 2 turns to kill you before you can actually Wrath. This is like, nah, I'll just cast it for 2 mana. Cool. I'll remove your board, thin it out. I have all the options in the world. Like, the creatures are already dead. I don't understand. Like, nobody attacks with creatures in Modern anymore. They're combo pieces or like one-shot kills. Like, I don't know why they keep printing such hyper-efficient wraths and removals for this metagame.
They were worried about squirrels, Richard.
Yeah.
Squirrels. There's so many squirrels coming out and going wide that they had to make sure they would keep the squirrels in check.
The cost of black though is real. Like, that is very real. So I mean, it is a powerful spell, but because it's also going to be black, that can be a little taxing on some mana bases.
Yeah, I think it's a safety valve, right? Like, I don't think most decks would play this, right? But if the meta ever shifts in such a way that you need wraths, then you would start playing this card. But
I mean, this is when it comes to deck building. You would normally so. Let's say if this were my deck and I'm building a control deck, I normally would be like, all right, this is my spot removal slot and this is my sweeper slot. In Modern, you don't need to run as many sweepers, right? You see maybe like 1 verdict, 2 verdicts, but because this can be counted as a spot removal, I'm actually
would you replace
then
verdict
say,
in Esper with Damn?
I'd play like 4, yeah, because now I have the option of having either spot removal or 4 board wipes. So as opposed to boarding into more sweepers, I've already got them in the main. Because like you kind of like account for it as a spot removal slot and a sweeper slot, so they can kind of share the load there when it comes to main deck.
The good old Esper curve where you need double black for Dam, double white to overload it, and then triple blue to Cryptic. Good old modern mana base here.
You can do whatever in Modern, okay? Like the thing is, it's Modern. You really can. I mean, and soon we'll have counter spells, so you'll need double blue.
Yeah, you need double blue to counter it. But if they play something that doesn't have an ETB, then you use your double black to dam it away. It's fine.
Yeah. Look. It sounds like a meme, but Watery Grave stock is just climbing up every day.
The best thing about Ignoble Hierarch is you can turn 2 Blood Moon. It's like Blood Moon is a legit strategy in Jund, but like how are you gonna cast like Liliana? It's like very difficult. But with Ignoble Hierarch, you can actually Blood Moon and keep your mana in good shape to like play the rest of your hand out. So that could be. So I think that's all the time we have for previews. We missed a lot of good cards. There's just too many good cards. Wizards went kind of all out. All the cards are extremely playable in either Modern. They look playable in Modern or Commander. So yeah, check out MTG previews for the rest of the cards if you want to look. And I guess we have time for a fishmail question. So if you have questions, send them to @MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions on air. So we'll keep in the spirit of Modern Horizons from the Only Way, or @OnlyWay. Which card is going to be the Hogaak of MH2?
Ooh.
So what is essentially going to get banned first?
And insanely broken.
I don't see
along the way.
So I don't see an obvious Hogaak from the set. I guess go with Grief. Like I still think that might be the card that is most likely to be problematic and be banned, but I don't know. I guess I didn't see Hogaak coming either, and it kind of slipped through spoiler season and then broke everything. So maybe something super broken that I haven't picked up on, but I think I would go with Grief.
I don't even know. I want to just say Braids, but I don't think Braids is the problem anymore. So there's nothing that really jumps out at me. If anything, it's going to be a whole cycle of cards, which would be the free spells, but those don't seem that bad. I don't know. I can't really pick one. Nothing stands out to me as the immediate go-to for banning.
I think it's Voidwalker. I feel like I'm insane. No one, my opinion is different for everyone, but I feel like it kills entire archetypes. Can you imagine playing Tron against a Voidwalker? Like, you have no interaction for this, right? You're just gonna give him a Karn. You're gonna give him an Ulamog. Like, cool, right? Like, I feel this card, its floor is so high, and it can be so broken against the right opponents. I feel this is going to be problematic. I feel like you can't play these decks that are just trying to put power out like giant bombs, because you have to interact with Voidwalker to do it, and a lot of those decks aren't set up for that.
You can add blue.
Poor Tron. Poor Tron.
Yeah, Tron was our savior of fair magic. That is the fairest deck, okay? Where you 3 mana 7-drop is the fairest deck we have in Modern.
I will never feel bad for Tron. So if Tron is losing, I'm just like, oh, I'm so sorry.
I need to splice this with our commentary from like months ago where we're lamenting about Tron, and we're like, oh, come on, Tron, come back. But yeah, I think it validates entire archetypes. So I don't know. We'll see.
The shadow card, Dothy Voidwalker?
You can't play Tron really strong, against it. Tron is gone, right?
I mean, it's not gone? Come on. Like, okay, like Tron's on the play. You do this, they actually just play Karn, right?
Then you get rid of their first Karn with your real Thoughtseize, and then you wait till they draw
they just, because the Karns are never in their hand. Don't you know this, Richard? If you played against Tron,
the number one rule of Thoughtseize is the first Thoughtseize always puts the card back on top, so you'll be able to get it back with the Voidwalker.
Then you stack that on top of that, it being Tron. Then the follow-up card is like Ugin, always, or something along those lines.
Yeah. So wait, did you have a broken card?
I can't pick one.
None?
I guess,
you're going with none.
What?
You're going with the safe answer.
Yeah, none.
None.
Yeah, like I'm going with none because I don't see anything here being that broken yet. I mean, we aren't fully spoiled. I mean, how about this? I'll go with the salt pick, Gaia's Will, because why does green have that? Why does green? Yeah, and I'll also throw in the green
Flavor
Urborg.
ban.
Yeah, flavor ban that. That's what we need in the new BNR, flavor bans.
All right. So that's all the time we have for Fish Mail this week since we had a ton of previews. So be sure to send your questions to @MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions on air.
And I believe that brings us to the end of episode 331 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. So Richard, Krim, thanks for hanging out. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And we will be back next week to talk about the rest of Modern Horizons 2 and whatever else goes on in the world of Magic. So until then, have a great day, everyone. And this is the crew signing out.